The whispering forest lived up to its name. Every step the horses took on the crunchy snow seemed to wake echoes among the ancient fir trees, their low branches bending like bony fingers trying to reach the fugitives. Freya guided the horses with a firm hand, her breath forming little clouds in the icy air that smelled of pine and frozen earth. Lina sat stiffly on Silber, barely noticing the branches scratching her bare arms. Her violet eyes, usually so expressive, now reflected the emptiness of someone who had seen their whole world collapse in a single night. "We must keep going south," Freya whispered, checking the stars visible through the leaves. Toward the Raven's Pass. The path grew narrower, forcing them to ride in single file. To their left, the slopes of the Norn Mountains rose imposingly, their snow-covered peaks glowing under the full moon like the teeth of a sleeping giant. To their right, the ground dropped sharply into the silent valleys, where, according to legends, the souls of traders wandered endlessly. Freya knew these stories better than anyone. As the daughter of Nordenlicht's chief herbalist, she had grown up listening to the tales of the matriarchy's women. She remembered bitterly how her mother had taught her that in their society women held power. The Erbherren, ladies of inheritance, decided which possessions went to which daughters, the Kriegsherren, ladies of war, led the defenses, and the Monpriestrinnen, moon priestesses, interpreted the god's will. The complete opposite of the neighboring kingdoms, where men hoarded land and titles like dogs guarding bones. A distant sound made Freya listen carefully. Footsteps? Voices? "Lina," she whispered, stopping Brandfuchs. "Listen." But her friend didn't react. Her hands, gripping Silber's reins, trembled slightly, but her gaze remained fixed on some point between the present and the recent horror. Freya cursed under her breath. She knew shock could paralyze even the strongest minds, but they didn't have time for that. With quick movements, she tied Silber's reins to her own horse and pulled out a small blue velvet pouch from her bag. "This will help," she said, placing a bitter paste made of valerian root and moon mushroom spores between Lina's lips. "My mother made it, for hard times." The effect was almost immediate. Lina's eyes regained some of their usual focus, though the pain in them was now clearer than ever. "Freya?" Her voice was rough as if unused for years. "What happened?" Freya held back a sigh of relief. "Adriano betrayed your parents. The mansion is burning. Goran bought us time but not much." Lina nodded slowly as if each word were a nail driven into her heart. "Where?" "To the Nebelar Forest. Goran said we'd find the guardian there." The name seemed to awaken something in Lina. "Die Waktarin?" she murmured. "But no one has seen a guardian in generations." Freya didn't answer. Instead she pointed ahead where the path split. "The left leads to the Raven's Pass. The right to the lowlands." Lina followed her gaze. Even in her state, she understood the unspoken question. "Nordenlicht will never bow to Adriano," she said, a spark of her old fire returning. "The Erbherren won't allow it." Freya nodded, though she wasn't so sure. The Nordenlicht matriarchy was strong, but Adriano had been weaving his web for years. As a foreign man he could never rule openly, but how many women on the council were already under his influence? "Then, left?" Freya asked. "Left," Lina confirmed. "But first let's stop for a moment." She pointed to a small altar hidden among the roots of an ancient oak. It was a simple structure, 3 stacked stones with offerings of dried berries and a piece of blue cloth tied around the trunk. Freya shivered, and not from the cold. "An altar of the Nameless One," she whispered. "The third god of the triad, the one whose name was never spoken. The god of unexplained things, of fickle luck and dangerous tricks. People left him offerings but never prayed openly. Saying his name out loud was like inviting chaos into your life." Lina clumsily dismounted and approached the altar. From her pocket, she took out a silver coin bearing the face of her great-grandmother, the founder of the Sternenlicht line. "For you, Nameless One," she whispered, placing the coin between the stones. "Please guide us." Freya resisted the urge to protest. She knew, just as Lina did, that the Nameless One was not a god to ask for favors. His help, if it came, always had a price. But in desperate times, even the most dangerous superstition seemed better than nothing. The wind whispered through the leaves, spinning the coin on the stone before letting it fall with an ominous clink. "Let's go," Freya said sharply, helping Lina back onto her horse. "The night won't wait for us." As they rode on, Freya couldn't help thinking about the 3 gods and how their conflicting influences had shaped the world they knew. The goddess of wisdom and home, whose worship faded each year, though her priestesses still commanded respect. She was the only deity who still appeared occasionally, taking the form of a wise woman walking through markets or sitting in squares, listening to people's troubles. The last sighting in Nordenlicht had been 10 years ago, when she had blessed Lina's birth, predicting she would bring moonlight where there was only shadow. Then there was the god of arts and war, whose male aristocratic clergy grew rich while justifying conquests and inequalities in his name. According to ancient texts, he had been Adriano's favorite, with his teachings on ambition and power. And finally, the Nameless one, as unpredictable as a sudden storm. The path grew steeper, forcing them to focus on the terrain. As they climbed, the air grew thinner and colder. Behind them, the glow of Nordenlicht's fire had faded, but smoke still stained the horizon. Freya, Lina's voice was clear for the first time since their escape. Do you think anyone else survived? Freya wanted to lie, to say that of course the matriarchy's women were strong, that they would resist. But Lina deserved the truth. I don't know. But Adriano is clever. He knows he can't rule without at least the appearance of legitimacy. He'll probably keep some of the herb heron alive. At least at first. Lina nodded, her profile sharp against the moonlight. Then we must reach Nebelar. Find the guardian. And return. It wasn't a question. It was a vow. Freya smiled for the first time in hours. Yes. But first the ravens pass. And then. A sudden noise silenced them. Something moved in the trees to their right. Something big. Freya grabbed Lina's sword, ready for the worst. But when the figure emerged from the shadows, both held back a scream. It wasn't a mercenary. Not even an animal. It was a woman. A woman with eyes as white as snow, dressed in rags, her face showing an unnatural calm. The stars bleed, the stranger said, pointing at the sky. And the moon wears a crown of thorns. Lina held her breath. A priestess of the goddess? The woman smiled, revealing perfectly white teeth. Not a priestess. A messenger. She knows you're coming. She waits. Before they could ask more, the woman turned and disappeared into the trees as silently as she had appeared. Freya and Lina exchanged glances, realizing in that moment that their escape was no longer just from Adriano. Now they were also running toward something. Toward a destiny not even the gods could fully foresee. Thank you. Till the next week. Bye.